Good evening and welcome to the School Building Committee for the Pembroke Project, October 14th, 2014. I'd like to approve the minutes for September 16th. Would anyone care to make a motion?
So moved.
Second. Anyone have any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we also have minutes from October 2nd, 2014. Would anyone care to make a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I wasn't there.
Abstain.
Michelle and Eric abstained. Motion carries. Okay. All right, so,
Oh, yeah, I abstained too.
and George abstained. Okay, I'd like to thank Courtney, Carl, and Pat, Chuck for giving us a tour of the building today. It was so wonderful to see the progress that's being made. It really looks like a school. Tiles up,
Yep.
walls are painted, the cabinetry is up. Oh, yes. And before we do talk about the construction progress, I would like to approve the invoices. This evening, we have invoices in the amount of $1,864,217.31 from Green Seal, Copeland and Page, Municipal, DRA, and Brake.
There's an extra green seal on there for the ones we emailed out to you, there's one that came in, and yesterday, as you know, Green Seal's contract is they got paid every 2 weeks. They invoice you every 2 weeks,
Okay,
so.
there are two of them.
Just came in, so there's two, there's a second one added to that.
I see that one. But you've added it to the total,
Yep.
yes, right, they're both here.
So,
Okay.
with the first coat of binder on and they're removing the wheel wash and they're capping the fields, they're leaving pretty soon, or?
They have about, since they bill every 2 weeks, they're, but budget now for them to run another 4 weeks. Timing based on the contractor is, we're right there. We hope the schedules match so that they don't, so that there isn't an extension for that. It's the contractor's intention to have it all capped within the next four weeks. So we should be right on top of it.
And all we'll need is, we'll need obviously we'll need an extension to have them to do phase two. When we do phase two, which should be a much smaller arrangement, because that should be a very quick capping. Once the building comes down, that should go very quick, because everything else around it's gonna be capped. So it should be a very short amount of time to do it. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, would anyone care to make a motion to approve this invoice from,
So moved.
Second.
okay, any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Pat, would you like to give us an update?
Sure. And I think from a standpoint of, picture's worth 1,000 words, and I think that the committee had a real good look at the building tonight. So I think I would just maybe touch base on things that you couldn't see tonight. Things like what's going on in the north field. The north field now, loam is being spread, the capping material is down in a lot of the north fields. Loam is being spread, and as soon as the loam gets spread, they'll obviously do the rest of the infield construction, backstops, things of that nature, and then hopefully get some hydro seeding done. I'm not sure how much growth we're gonna get, but the hydro seeding will provide some additional capping over the top and do a little erosion control, and maybe we'll get some fuzz growing so they can really take off next spring. The septic system, the majority, actually, they had 47 loads come in yesterday of sand. That was due to the fact that it was a holiday and there was a lot of trucks available. So that septic area is not only filled to the contractual line, but actually they filled it up. They're continuing to work on actually the portion that they already own. So that's moving along well, and we expect them to start the utility part of that very shortly, because the sand is in there. So again, the goal there is still to finish that septic and get that hydro seeded as well as that upper field that you see the vis barrier going down on. So it's all moving along now that we've cleared the hurdles with getting them authorized to continue.
Do we have any better estimate on what that's gonna cost?
Just like the last time around, we plugged in the 329. We have a meeting with them on Friday morning. We are comparing notes with Niche. We have all of the quantities and equipment figures and so forth. We'll be comparing that with DRA and Niche, their consultant. We'll discuss that probably tomorrow afternoon or on Thursday, so we can be ready for Friday morning when we sit down with them. But we're comfortable that it's not gonna be the 329. So again, like I said, we'll see what happens after our meeting on Friday morning.
How many prices do you have to get?
It's not a matter of getting prices, there's no prices to get, it's a matter, they've done the work, they've been authorized to do it based on the vote that was taken here at the last meeting, and the CCD, the Construction Change Directive, has been issued, and it's been issued at $161,000. They had sent in a number of $320,000, which everybody vehemently disagreed with, and the vehicle to keep the job moving was the CCD, and that's what they've been working on. So now we'll be comparing the actual cost, because under the CCD process, as you know, they have a right to lay out all of their costs, and we've got a pretty good record-keeping arrangement. Pete, who you saw tonight at the meeting, is a meticulous guy. He's done a great job watching your job, watching all of the items going on there, and also keeping track of things that fell into the category of being any extra costs. So we feel there's a pretty good handle on going into negotiations in conjunction with Niche and Courtney and Kyle. We think that we're in pretty solid ground.
Well, if you already have a price, why are you going to negotiate?
We have our price. We have our price.
Gotcha.
We've computed a price. The team has computed a price and said you are compelled to do it, which the contract allows you to do.
Well, that's where I'm going back to the first question I had. Did you check around? Because quite frankly, $329,000, that sounds like Boston prices, $100 a foot. That's crazy.
Yeah, there's no way of going out to rebid the job. You
No,
have
but
a
just the price.
But we
contractor
check
on board.
prices, Tilly, through our consultants. They check the marketplace and, what highway projects go for excavation and sand and gravel and so forth.
No.
So that's where we came up with
Around here,
161,000.
not Boston.
Yes,
Yeah,
in this
good.
area. It's broken down in the state by area, and we use
Right.
this region. That's right.
And we think that we also have, a group of statistics that really hard to defend against on their part, because we actually have accumulated the cost. We have the cost, we have the labor breakdowns, we have the equipment breakdowns from the change order one. So when you put that together, what it's gonna leave basically is some of the consequential costs. If they had equipment laying around, not doing anything, that's where obviously the negotiation comes in.
Is there
as
a
to what-
mediation process if it breaks down at all? with
No,
the-
there's no mediation or arbitration in this contract, because that tends to, most of the communities write out arbitration and mediation, as the town did here. The means to resolve any dispute that doesn't get compromised or doesn't get resolved in a discussion or negotiation is litigation. And that's not very appealing to obviously anybody, including the contractor, so it's a great motivation to roll up your sleeves and get it done. Get it negotiated and move on.
I have another question for you. Is there anything pending that is going to be affected by weather? I mean, are there things that they need to get done before winter hits?
I think they're in very good shape. I mean, if anything, even though their schedule predicts that on-time completion, we all know that we look at it and realize that they're looking for a very early completion, substantial completion. And so, as far as we're concerned, they're gonna be in good shape, because they're gonna be they've already started doing a little bit of heat in there, and they're gonna be supplying a temporary heating plan. That temporary heating plan will probably involve the use, once we approve the process, or Kyle approves the process, the use of the existing boilers, so you get a much more even heat in the building, and that'll allow all of their inside work to continue. And as you saw today, the finishes are they're in full swing right now. Painting, tile, flooring, there isn't any part of the finished product that isn't being installed as we speak. We just want to see them get buttoned up and get the doors all closed and everything else.
Right.
Because right now we have video surveillance, you have some partial fences, but we just like to see the whole building locked up. We'll be more comfortable when all of the doors in the building is inaccessible unless somebody breaks in. So,
What is the warranty too? I was thinking of that when I was looking at the hanging lights that are in that little, like, alcove.
yeah, you have a general 1-year guarantee on the building, and then you have some components of the building that have extended warranties. Your roofing comes with a 30-year, warranty on the membrane. Some of the equipment, the boilers and the hot water heaters come with maybe a 5 or 10-year extended warranty. But in general, anything that goes wrong, any defect in the building of any sort, the contractor has a 1-year guarantee. And then, like I said, there'll be a whole set of operating manuals that get distributed, and those manuals will show all of the extended warranty information so that the owner can make direct contact with that particular vendor if there's any problems. If there's issues with the general, then the general's contacted, and he's got to take care of the problems.
When are they looking to get done?
Right now, their contract is they have to be substantially done by July. When do we think they're gonna, we think they might be substantially complete by May. And if they're substantially complete by May, it's a perfect scenario because it allows the furniture and fixtures and technology to come in after they're substantially done. We get rid of that blurry period of time between our furniture coming in before they're substantially done, and they're still there, and then you get the issues of, who dinged the wall and so forth. So this would work out real well. It'll be probably one of the first ones that works out that way, because most jobs enter that blurry area where they still haven't achieved substantial completion, but furniture and fixtures and technology start to roll in, and there's a blurry area in there about, who owns the utilities and so forth, and do we share it, how do we share it? I'd love to get to the point on this job, we don't have to worry about that. So
So
we've
they-
taken substantial completion, doesn't mean they're 100% done, it means they're substantially done. That's defined by when the building is ready for its intended use. And once we get to that point, we own it, they're still working on any punch list items of minimal, but we're taking furniture and fixtures after they're substantially done.
So they own it for the winter heating it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I was just gonna touch base on what's happened outside, if you want me to move on
The
from
other-
there.
Just to let everybody else know, also substantial completion sets the point of when it starts all your warranty sequence in.
So we don't really wanna rush. We don't wanna go in February or March. We don't wanna start moving until May. Because we don't wanna pay any
There's
utilities.
nothing to go in February or March, right?
Right,
There's
we
no
don't wanna
kids
pay
yet, and there's no
utilities.
furniture yet to go in
We'll
at
find
that
things
time.
that aren't done,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Well, we want to make sure our boilers and everything
Right.
start up,
Yeah.
work out.
Right, but the contractor's gonna do that. He's gonna use them.
Regardless of when he finishes.
Yeah. There's an extensive period of time. I mean, you look at it from a cosmetic standpoint, and you look around and say, boy, this place could be done. This place cosmetically could be done in December. This is moving right along. There's an extensive period of time to start up all the systems, have all the systems commissioned. It's a complex building, so there's a lot of work to take that building and call it substantially complete. And that means when you look at the definition, when the building is ready for its intended use, that means intended use means you are gonna take over the maintenance, you're gonna take over the operations of the building. You've gotta go through and make sure the building is completely checked out in conjunction with our commissioning. All your people have to be trained, and we own extensive training of personnel. We, the contract, owns extensive personnel. So if that building was cosmetically done in February, there'd be 2 months' worth of just shakeout, training, commissioning, and getting everything up and running. There's all kinds of extra time in getting the temp control systems running. Once they're running, it'll be a joy to obviously operate that building. But it takes a while to get everything up and running.
All right.
Yeah, so, again, like I said, they're making great progress. The physical progress is ahead of schedule, but there's a way to go. And again, like I said, we are, ideally, substantial completion somewhere around the end of May would be wonderful, because now we've got a perfect transition to get everything else done. They can make arrangements to get the building taken down as soon as the kids are out of school, so it'll be a nice transition. Furniture's coming in after we own the building.
I would love for the
Right through
kids to
the
come back
process.
and have the old building gone and, so
Yeah.
they really get a good,
Yeah, and I think they're gonna wanna get rid of that building, because that's gonna be the stepping stone to get Phase 2 done.
right.
So the sooner they get that done, the quicker they can get it
Yeah.
done, seeded, and not have to roll into the following spring to get grass planted and so forth.
Right.
So that's the goal right now, and I think we're on a path where
That'll happen.
we think that'll happen.
Okay.
They think it'll happen before that, because I think people are looking at the cosmetic aspect of the
Right.
building. We're looking at the operational
Right.
aspect of the building, and to make sure it's all, the bugs are shaken out of it, and when it comes over to you, it's a building that is gonna be very, very, very smooth and easy to operate.
Okay.
But can I just ask a question? So as it's planned right now, when is the current Pembroke going to be raised?
Soon as the children are out of school. Assuming this
Okay.
building is on substantial completion
July.
target. Soon as the children are out of school,
July.
they'll be all set to go.
End of June?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. And they've got to, again, like I said, the first thing that's gonna happen is they've got to abate the building. there's a substantial amount of abatement to be done.
We have to
Right.
move out, though.
You know, you gotta move out of the building, you
Right,
gotta
we
get
have to move
everything out
out,
of the building.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
and Chuck has been working closely on a moving plan, they're working together on that part of it.
Okay.
And, you know, the FF&E is being finalized for bidding purposes, the technology is being finalized. So all of everything is in motion to have this be a smooth transition as that building gets handed over to the town.
Okay.
So have the conversations been had then, as far as what we're taking from the old Pembroke School?
There's been a lot of discussion about that, yes, yeah.
All right, is there anything else you wanted to go over with
Only that I
the
think you
report?
walked around on the pavement, there wasn't a lot to see, but behind the building, there's a lot of activity going on, retaining walls, you know, those retaining walls, those segmented retaining walls have been completed. They were starting to work on a lot of the detention basins and so forth out back, which is why, again, like I said, Judge, we still have some tracking, and we still have some monitoring, because they're still working on some of the material coming out of the back, going across the site, which we gotta be careful of. So that's why, as Chuck mentioned, that 4 weeks, we're hoping that 4 weeks gets us to a point where we can mitigate the knot fields, mitigate a lot of that work on that side, and then obviously get rid of the rest of the excavation on the building side, get those areas sufficiently capped. We're parking now on the pavement. If we can do that, we're probably in very good shape to say, let's take a hiatus at that point.
That'd be great.
And not get into any additional costs until we get to phase 2. So,
Is there anything from the budget that we need to know, or we're still,
budget is pretty much like we did last time around, and if you look at page 5, page 5 shows you exactly where we are with contingencies and owner's contingencies as of today with the things that have been authorized. And if you go to page 8, it makes the projection of the things that are on the table, because right now, if you look at the construction contingency on page 5, it says 887, and owner's contingency 302. When you go to page 8, it adds in those things that are dangling modifiers, like the 329 for the septic mitigation. So if you go to page 8, the third item from the bottom is the 887 that just came over from page 5 from a construction contingency basis. And that is reduced by the potential change orders of 523, which is a combination of the 510 in the third last column and the 12553 from the fourth last column. You combine those, you get the 523, and those are projections. And again, I draw your attention to item change 44, which still shows the 329 for the CCD that we've authorized at 161. So for every dollar the 329 comes down, obviously the contingency of 364 would go up. And as we said last time around, last meeting, when we did our projection of the balance that Brate has to complete, and we put in the 2 categories of less risky, more risky, imply appropriate percentages, we're comfortable, and if you define the word comfort as, we think that there's a high probability that this particular contingency would be sufficient. And at this point, like I said, with that 329 going down, we think that we have
Yeah.
a reasonable probability we're gonna be in great shape.
okay,
And then the cash flows, Chuck has prepared cash flows, which he gives to, obviously, the financial people, so they can do their financial planning. Tells you what change orders have been approved and are in his accounting. There's a schedule on the back, and the schedule obviously starts to get into FF&E procurement, technology procurement, and it starts to get into last day of school, move into new school, so it's, Chuck's done a nice job with the report, gives you a good overview of what's happening, what has happened, and what continues to go on.
thank you very much.
Who takes care of subtracting the loan from the whole price from the loan that was delivered from the high school?
There's a proposal request has gone to Brate. It said, give us a credit for the fact that the town is supplying loan to the job.
Okay.
So we're waiting for them to respond to that.
A question on the, for FF&E contingency, that was based on the cost estimates that we got 2 years ago. So is there a potential for FF&E to come up on today's prices?
Well, the FF&E is plugged in, at the time, there was nothing designed when the budget was created. The FF&E was plugged in at the maximum dollars allowed by MSBA. MSBA allows $1,200 per student for FF&E and $1,200 per student for technology. You multiply that times the 770 students we have, that gives you the budgets. And that's right now what everybody is working around, and as they prepare their budgets, obviously, you'll be looking at what was carried, that was allowed by MSBA, and then you'll be looking at what's gonna be procured, how you're gonna procure it. If there's anything in there that if we happen to run over budget, we'll be looking at that time, we'll have a better handle on what the budget is, because we will have negotiated some of these things away, and you can make some determinations. But the budget right now was based on the maximum that MSBA would allow.
Which is the 924.
Right.
That was the budget 2 years ago, so is it, it's still the same $1,200 per student?
That's
It
right.
is.
Nothing
It is.
changed.
They
Right.
haven't raised it yet.
The same square footage cost for the building is the same, the technology is the same 8% for site work is the same. There's no, once you enter the deal, that deal that you signed with the MSBA is the deal.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question on, I wasn't at the walk. I couldn't make it, but how much higher is the backfield from the other field?
It's at the west end where it meets, where the two fields meet, and there's a slope there. That's about 4 or 5 feet. It sort of varies a little bit. And then from there, the backfield has a slope to it itself of another couple feet across the width of it, just at a very, I think it's at 2% at that point.
It seems like it's a lot higher than what we were expecting. Is it?
Well,
Yeah.
it's about 3 feet higher than we were expecting because of the material that came out of the septic hole. We had to lose it on
So the material
site.
that came out of the septic hole, was that just regular soil, or was that?
Most of it was
Organics.
acceptable as fill.
Yeah, it was
The part that,
acceptable
the
for
part
fill.
that was organic ends up on the
On your side.
toboggan
On the pile.
hill slope there.
The-
So they
it's now a-
separated it.
Yeah.
So
Now,
they
beginner
have
slope.
that one hill that's
We're not
used,
gonna build
A
a
rope
rope
tow.
tow up there.
right, in charge of admission, no.
It's actually on the agenda that we're gonna talk about the fields.
Okay,
I'll,
I'll wait then.
you might as well, we'll get it all at once. Before you get started, I just wanna tell you, I loved the stonework on the front of the building. It was very sharp looking. Just think
And
it really.
unfortunately, in the waning light, you couldn't see,
Yeah.
there's some other parts of it too that help tie the building into the site. So it's not only on the building and those columns, but there's a few retaining walls
I
or
saw a couple of
stone
retaining
walls that
walls.
help it sort of extend into the landscape, which
Yeah,
is nice.
no, they were,
Yeah.
it was beautiful.
Yeah, the flashlight didn't do it justice, you know?
No, it
The
didn't.
flashlight just didn't kind of create the ambiance that was necessary.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't do justice looking out at night either, because from all the classrooms,
Yeah,
you can
that's the
see
other
trees
part,
from
too.
every single classroom,
Yeah.
no matter
Yeah.
which side of the building you're on, no matter what floor, and you can't see that really at night, but, yeah,
Yeah,
it looks
it's
great.
beautiful.
Pat's guy Pete there takes a lot of photos, and
Right.
there's a lot
Yeah.
of them from inside looking out, and you get a good
Yeah.
appreciation
Right.
for what it's gonna be like through all the windows.
Yep. It's very nice.
Wasn't there supposed to be something around those posts that are in the front?
There was.
There was stone there.
There were sort of tapered stone columns there, Tilly.
Yeah.
No, oh,
It's 'cause
you
it was
saw
a little
that,
dark.
you're right, there are a set of
Yeah.
bare steel ones, but
Right.
the two that frame the main entrance
I saw
and
them,
the gable,
but you're not
those are
putting
the only
anything
ones.
on the
Nothing
other?
on the others. We wanted to spend money only kind of where it made the most difference, right at the front, and let the others be kind of more in the
I could
background.
just picture a little kid sticking his tongue out there and squeezing the other.
You know what, it wouldn't be an elementary school if they didn't,
At his,
right?
his or her peril.
Yeah, that'd be the last time.
Right, right.
All right, well, is there any more information you want to give us about the septic system, or do you think we've covered it all?
I think we've covered it all.
Okay.
Yeah, I think,
It's-
yeah, I'm,
You
Carl
know,
wants to-
they
Courtney
are
wants to add
proceeding,
something,
you
yeah.
know,
Right.
in accordance
Alright.
with the
Yeah.
documents, so
Then we might as well
it's moving along.
go
yeah.
back to the field.
Yeah, and the fields are also proceeding, you know, and as we said, they had more material to take out of that hole that they had to lose on site. Some of it was organic, so it ended up in one pile, but a lot of it was reasonable fill, so it went on the open play area, as we call it, that backfield there, and it did raise the grade on that.
So if that's,
there.
if that's good soil or not organic soil.
Acceptable for fill, yeah.
Yeah, can't that be used to be spread out over the new field where the school's gonna be?
We
Doesn't
tried
it be a
that,
bigger
Jeff.
area?
Yeah, it didn't make sense to try and use it there. For one, they had already put down the high-vis barrier, and were getting ready for the capping material and the loam, and they would have had to peel that back, and, would have raised the price pretty significantly. And the amount that we could have raised the field without affecting the surroundings, because we're very tight to the road, very tight to the parking, was maybe 6 inches, So it made, much easier on all parts, easier on your pocketbook, easier on the contractor.
Well, it's not near the road though, is it? That field isn't anywhere near the road. I mean, it's near there's no road there, there's a pathway, but that doesn't matter.
No, the finished.
You're talking about the Little League fields, if we
No, I'm
had
talking
put it
about-
there?
I'm talking about where Pembroke is itself.
Oh,
That's
we,
such a big
I'm sorry,
field.
we did think about that as well.
That was
but-
talked about.
But the
Talked
problem
about that
there is, where do you
extensively.
store it?
Yeah.
See, then they'd have to
Driveway, on the
stockpile it,
parking lot, which
wait
we
till
don't need
next
to
June,
use.
right, so.
Then he won't have to plow.
And so that became
Or
an
even
issue,
throw it.
that there was no convenient place to stockpile it, because they want to finish the north fields and put grass on them.
Right.
And so, it wasn't,
I mean, I thought
That
you
was,
could-
that was very promising early in the game.
yeah,
When we started strategizing where we're gonna put this material. It was like, well, if we take some of the material that we can use to raise that field and stock it here, and then use the organics in the backside.
Right, right.
So it seemed to be taking shape until we get to the point where you can see the size of that pile. There was just no place to store it and be able to eventually move it over to that
Right.
location. Because that area that was anticipated to store this material became now the organic stockpile that's gonna stay there.
yeah,
So, the
was
name
sorta
of the
like
game had to be to,
painted into
we
a
gotta
corner
keep it
or
on
something.
site. We just didn't have,
And-
there was no room.
And you couldn't spread it across the whole field, so it wouldn't go up 4 or 5
No,
feet.
no,
So now we've got,
I mean, you couldn't use that, I guess what you're saying is you couldn't use that on the existing fields to
Right.
raise that whole field up?
no, we thought about
That's
that, that's
We
what
thought
I'm
about
saying.
that, yeah.
We thought about
Yeah.
that, but
That
they
was
already,
6 inch, I remember you
Yeah.
saying that.
yeah.
I think we lose fields,
So-
so.
so now that backfield is 4 or 5 feet high and has a slope, so not going to be.
Oh, no, the slope didn't
yeah.
change. It always had a slope
Yeah.
on top, a little bit for drainage.
Yeah.
You just have, I mean, it's gonna, I think, look like an embankment that, spectators can sit on to watch the game on the softball field. It's about
lemonade.
that high, 4 or 5
But at
feet
some
high.
point, Eric, the top is still flat.
Yeah.
That can still be used for
Right,
a
right.
while, for practice or whatever.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
then down the
You're not worried
road.
about erosion or anything like that coming down?
No, the slopes are reasonable enough that it's good.
We rip wrap those slopes too.
On the
Yeah,
backside,
the slope is
backside.
rip wrapped on the
the steep
backside.
side
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
back.
Yeah, Kyle actually brought in a very good plan last time around that actually showed the contour of what would have been the top and then the contour now. And when you look at it, I mean, it obviously is a little bit smaller, but the impact is not what you would normally think it would be. It's smaller, but you still have a field you can play on. Kids can run on it, they can play on it.
We'll just put a zip line
So-
down to the other field.
All right,
So
any other
that's in
questions?
progress. I don't know if there's much else to report on the north fields. And they, as Pete mentioned, they are using some of the topsoil
Right.
from the football field at the high school.
Oh, every little bit.
And no steps going in to get up to that plateau.
Saw that already.
There's a sort of diagonal walkway, yeah. So, but it'll be reasonable enough to walk on, just not
It's
a-
not gonna be like going up to the soccer field behind the high school, if that's what you mean. It's only 5 feet.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
but we're building a complex, it's just,
I know,
So that won't be
Can't do it.
handicap
No.
accessible?
right?
just that one little spot though.
Not the very upper level of the open play area back there, technically not, Pete.
That's why we're calling it
Yeah.
open play, not a field necessarily.
Don't get me going on that.
Well, but Eric, the compromise is we made the other 2 fields much larger.
Talk about that. Courtney sent, I think she wanted.
Yeah.
So I'm moving
Why are we
on.
compromising now? We're spending
Yeah,
$46
I
million.
I
And we
know.
could get
Other
a school in our town and a complex that's right. Why are we
Can
compromising?
I see that?
But it's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna
Is
be
there
beautiful.
still, Ellie, is there still a small soccer field over
Yep. The septic?
Yeah, that'd be a U-10
Yeah.
field,
Yeah.
size at least.
Because that's an
It's not gonna be- yeah.
It
Right.
hasn't changed.
Right.
Yeah, that's gonna be, it's actually gonna be a double field. Not usable at the same time, but it'll be, what, baseball and soccer?
No,
no,
not on
no,
field.
no.
She means
We're talking
on
about
the
the
Not where the
small
school
one.
is,
Oh,
where the septic field is,
Small one's,
is a
small one's
soccer
the size
field.
of a U-10 field,
Yeah.
just to give
And
perspective.
what level
how
will that
big it
be
is.
at? That'll be not level with
Lower.
either of the two either, right?
No, that's the
Lower.
lowest level.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
That's 'cause the
basically
septic
its
has to go
existing
down.
level.
Yeah.
The same level it was previously.
And then the regular, where the school is now, that field will be at what level?
About where the school is
About where
now.
it is now.
We don't have any drawings, Courtney?
Unless we dig more.
We
than
didn't
We-
bring
we
them
were
today,
planning-
sorry.
We don't need drawings
We didn't
anymore.
bring them today.
No, somebody's
Gondola, don't want to, yeah.
We had run through it last time.
Okay.
So I apologize.
Any other questions? Because otherwise I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Should everyone
Well, we have
sign it?
change order to,
Oh, that's right, I'm
mention,
sorry, too
uh,
bad.
it's actually, you could refer to municipal's report.
Is it in here?
Yeah, I'll highlight them. If you go to the potential change orders on page 8, there are 3 items that are ready to move into a change order. On the left-hand column, where it says PCO, number 38, number 41, and number 42, they total collectively $5,213.83. And 2 of them are basically, you might say, coordination issues. One at the front doors, right? The aluminum doors, to get the closer that fits on the door is mostly a glass door, and the amount of space at the top in particular to accommodate the right kind of closer, or the closer needed to be modified to fit the amount of space there of aluminum. So those doors are being modified.
How many doors is it?
I think it's 4, or is it 6?
It's actually 6. because
6?
you're
Is the
including
side doors also?
all
Yeah.
the side doors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Discontinued.
And then in the cafeteria, I could have pointed out to you today, but you know how the
Pointed it
cafeteria is
out.
mostly open, but there are pipes and ductwork along the sides? Well, when they hit the end wall, those pipes and duct, some of them have to come down and get into the ceiling space of the kitchen. And that wall's got to be made thick enough to accommodate them, and so there's a little bump out there. That's why number 41 was needed. And number 42 is the roof of the library. It actually slopes back onto the lower roofs. But there's a curious thing that we notice now that the metal roof is on there, that in fairly heavy rainstorms, the wind blows in such a way that it blows the water kind of over the edge of the roof and kind of washes down the face of the building. And so, you know, it obviously, if it came straight down, it would fall on the low roof and go into the drain, and that would be the end of it. But because of the way it's dripping down, it's either going to stain the building or worse, you know, eventually affect the waterproofing of the building there. And so, you know, we suggested the contractor put an extra high curb on that side.
And that will direct the water?
Well, that'll hold the water, and eventually it drains back into the
Okay.
drain there. So that edge of the roof needed to be modified. So
Okay.
that's number 42.
All right, so it's just those 3.
Do any of these change orders ever, like, is it ever the architect's fault that? these
They're
are-
all our fault in one way or another, Pete. I'm serious, in that we prepare the documents, and so if there's an omission in the documents, yeah, we omitted something. But we kind of work with Pat and Chuck and come up with a contingency in your budget to make sure, because we know we've been through this before, that there are going to be certain things omitted, or that, you know, when you see how complicated buildings are and you got to work things out, some things get worked out in the field, or when submittals come in and so forth. And so, you know, we acknowledge that there are omissions, and that's what the contingency is for. What we try to avoid, and none of these fall in those categories, is, you know, having something actually built and then having to be changed due to our omission. All of these things are, you know, sort of caught on paper.
It is an error, yes.
So, right, that's the difference between an error and an omission.
Right.
So what happens when this is gone, the contingency?
The building's done.
Building's done and we're all good.
You can have a
All
party,
right, everybody knock on wood,
you can
that's
have
the
a party
deal.
with the
I
leftover
mean, if
money.
there's any upcoming problems that you didn't anticipate here.
Well, there's, as Pat goes over every month, there's a significant sort of cushion there in your contingency still. Even if the worst case happened, and all of these pending or projected change orders happen, there's still a balance there.
So we're gonna have something in that account.
So you'll have something left over that hopefully, you know, you won't have to borrow and you won't have to have the citizens pay for.
Okay, would anyone like to make a motion to accept, does this change order have a number?
Yeah, there's 38, there's
41 and 42.
38, 41.
But that's not the change order
It's change order number 9, I'm sorry.
Number 9, okay.
Yeah, they'll be incorporated in change order
All
number
right.
9.
And that incorporates
38,
41,
41, and 42.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion to accept change order number 9 in the amount of $5,213.83.
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion?
Well, so that adds up, it's 1,400, 1,800, and
It's
277 is,
5,213 and 83 cents.
I didn't add it, I took your word for it.
1,400, 1,800, and
Is that right?
277.
Oh, that needs to be modified.
Okay. let's
Oh,
go.
is that the previous one? When we had 4 items?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, well, there's a new total, but, because originally we thought there might be 4 items
We'll
tonight.
update this.
We had,
38, 41, and 42.
Okay,
What's
Why
the
don't
other
we go
one?
over it again, just make sure.
I'd like an
you're
exact
right.
figure.
Yeah.
Good
Hold it.
job,
Let's-
George.
We're adding it up over here.
Is it the 3?
Look right.
yes, just those 3.
Want to repeat those again, Kyle?
1,000,
14,38.
Where's
Yeah.
that one you threw away?
277.61,
No, we could just.
Hold on,
subtract.
14, what?
1,5,
Oh, 1.
No, one.
No, 1,415.
14,1,5.
2,364.96.
Oh,
Leave it up to them, yeah.
Oh, I thought it was because you took
All right,
one
no,
away.
14, 15, 38,
If
thank
you're
you.
not ready, we can always do it next month. It's not a big item anyway, so.
I know.
77.61. And 23.54.97.
What'd you get?
35, 77, 99.
That's what I got.
Say it again?
35, 77, 99.
That's it.
Okay, we have
Yep.
3 confirmations.
35, 77,
All right,
99.
I will entertain a motion to accept
Tilly.
change order number 9 for $3,577.99, thanks to George.
So
That
what did you
contingency
say?
just
What
got
did you
bigger.
so move there? You can so move.
Did you so move, George?
Yes.
Okay. May I get a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay. Anything else? Okay,
What about this?
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion
Do it
carries.
next.
I only brought it 'cause you
All
made
right,
the motion.
let's move on to the, we don't want to take a break, right? All right, let's go right into the Georgetown Middle High School. Good evening and welcome to the School Building Committee for the Georgetown Middle High School project, Tuesday, October 14, 2014. First order of business is to approve the minutes from September 16th, 2014. Would anyone entertain them? I'll entertain a motion for someone to,
So moved.
Second.
any discussion on the minutes? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. And the invoices for the Georgetown Middle High School from Municipal, DRA, Copeland and Page, in the amount of $36,002.50. Would anyone care to make a motion? So moved. Would anyone care to second?
So moved.
Michelle so moved.
I
Michelle
did,
did.
sorry.
I didn't
It
hear
was
it.
on.
She was right next to me, so I heard her. Yes. All right, any questions? Everything's pretty straightforward, okay.
Tag team down, better here.
I know, I'm getting confused.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Pat, would you like to go right into
Sure.
your update on budget?
I think everybody has a copy of the report. And right now, the team is right in the middle of preparing the 60% required submission to MSBA. And we've received the 60% documents. Our estimator has the 60% documents. Kyle's estimator has the 60% documents. We're going back doing the plan review, the spec review. I just sent through my plan review to DRA and our estimators and so forth. So everybody is working on that. The submission is due, I believe, the 28th into MSBA. And at that point, they'll start the review, but the design will still continue
Right.
because we've got to make the 90% submission in December as well. So we're on that approach. But from the standpoint of the previous month, there was an infrared roof scan that was completed to verify the condition of the insulation, to allow additional insulation to be completed.
Was it okay? I know we voted on that at the last meeting.
It came through, and it's resulted in DRA establishing the thickness of insulation that's going to be applied, and that a lot of that insulation can be reused, doesn't have to be
Okay, good.
replaced.
It was actually less that was damaged than
You
we
thought?
had carried in our previous estimates.
We'd like to hear that.
In the damaged areas, did you check the deck to see if that was good or rusting through?
No, we talked about that, though, carrying, I don't know what the report says exactly, but we need to carry some allowance for repairing deck,
Which
too.
we
and-
You might want
We did
somebody to
have
take
an
some
allowance
test
in-
things.
Yeah, they did
a
take
few
some
test
cuts.
spots.
Took a core in each
Uh,
of the different deck type or roof
Yeah,
types.
because I just did one,
Yeah.
and it's a lot more sometimes than you think.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if it showed everything being fine, we would always recommend that we carry
Oh,
an
yeah.
allowance, you know?
Yep.
You never
Which is
know.
an allowance on top of the
Just gives you a little bit of, yeah, it just gives you a little bit of
yeah.
knowledge.
There was a meeting with the conservation agent regarding jurisdiction and submission and so forth, and waiting for a response back to indicate that hopefully we're out of jurisdiction, and the work we're doing in the detention pond will be nothing but maintenance. So we're waiting for a confirmation on
We
it.
actually received an email today
Oh, you
from
did?
Steve,
And-
and he said that we're out of the jurisdiction. He does want to
Good.
meet with us. the final-
Excellent, yeah, good, good. Phase 1 environmental report was completed. The committee's already authorized the Phase 2 to be done, which obviously I'm sure is being worked on. And the specs will contain, obviously, hopefully, the precautionary requirements because of the soil condition, just like you have at the football field. The documents, as we said, have been advanced to the 60% level. Participated in the MSBA's design to construction document transition stage. We went in, as a matter of fact, Carol accompanied us in. They now have come up in the last year or so, they've come up with a transitional meeting. MSBA changes their team. They want you to go in and sit down with them and go through the procedure as you move into the next phase. We did that up there, and it was very matter of fact and very, we've gone through that with them on numerous occasions. So this is a little bit more formality to make the transition from one team to the other up at MSBA. The PFA was signed and returned, and Chuck will be loading that into the budget that came into the town just a few days ago. It sets the arrangement, everything is signed. We can now load the PFA budget into the ProPay. It obviously has the construction budget. I don't know if anybody recalls, but there was no requirement to do a design development submission to MSBA. We did it anyway. Internally, you should be doing that anyway. We did it, and the estimate that we came up with, both estimators, we were right on target with the budget, so we're hoping that we see the same thing around, even though we have a list of value engineering items that we've got on the table in case we need them. So again, like I said, the next month is gonna be really
Can I just, what does PFA scope mean?
project funding agreement.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and that-
Contract with the MSBA.
Yeah, that's the deal with MSBA, defines the reimbursement you're gonna get, defines all the categories, and again, like I said, Carol has a full PFA. They only send us the PFA without the various attachments, and the various attachments are voluminous, so they don't send them to us. We have them already, we actually participated in preparing a lot of those, so they're available, and I think Carol and probably Mike both have copies of the PFA if you wanted to take a look at them.
I will say when I saw the email from MSBA that
Yeah.
we've now moved into a new
Yeah.
group and we're done with some of those people,
Yeah.
it was bittersweet. It's been so many years that we have been dealing with
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
that I felt like.
Chris Alice, right,
Yeah.
he's been with
Yes.
us for a long time.
Yeah, how
right.
many years has it been?
That's right, yeah, that's right,
So
that's right.
it just, in my eyes, was such a step forward.
Yeah, yeah.
What we're
But again,
doing.
the upper management people, the Mary Piketty's and people
Right,
like
they're
that,
still
they'll
there.
always be with the project,
Absolutely.
all the way through.
Yeah.
But again, it's just a transitional team.
Yeah,
in a way.
it was good.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, Ally, 41 months.
It's been 41 months?
Your monthly report from the day we start.
41 months.
You graduated.
There you go.
The phase one environmental investigation completed, have they come out with results, like how bad it is, or?
They're working, I don't know where they, how far, that's phase one. Phase two is where
No,
they go in and
Phase
do
one
the
is
actual
just where they
investigation.
say
Yeah.
there are potential issues.
Right.
Pete.
Right.
We sort of knew what they were
Yeah.
gonna, you know, the soil, the oil tank. I'm not sure what else there was there, but that was basically it.
The town received the FEMA grants, does that change any scope here?
Really?
I was gonna mention that, I'd made a note
Yeah.
today, because Courtney was good enough to, so we didn't get a direct memo from Mike, but Courtney sent the memo today from Mike indicating that, believe it or not, they've come through with the grant. Now, how that gets implemented,
380-something thousand?
Really?
Is that
Great
for
job.
Pearlie
Great.
and for the high school?
Yeah.
So,
Pete, how much?
One was like 180 and the other was like 150.
That's
Okay.
great news.
But
Yeah.
what Mike explained, is there's some kind of a glitch having to do with some kind of a report that had to be on file with FEMA that was produced, apparently, the town paid somebody to do it, but it didn't get uploaded. So there's a question about whether or not, so now the town would have to go through submitting the report and getting on the approved list of FEMA, which could take years.
really?
So that's what I
Wow.
heard the
So
other
we didn't really
day.
get it.
Well,
So.
we'll work
right
with
now we can't
Mike.
plan on
We'll
it.
have to work with Mike on it,
Yeah.
'cause, you know,
So we're
maybe there's a
proceeding
way
as
to
is,
wiggle
but-
around it.
Mike just sent us an email late today or whatever that mentioned that, and we need to check with the engineer who helped, you know, worked with the town to make the application, to make sure that the scope that's in our documents matches the scope there, and then to see what else is involved.
Is that Crossland, Pete?
If it's years out,
I know.
like it sounds
know.
like, the best you're gonna hope for is do this project, and then you get the money to reimburse the project.
And then we'd have to give some back to MSBA, or
And
because
they'll
it's all site work, we're okay.
Possibly be
Yeah.
a reimbursement.
if it comes into the, if it comes into the,
But
if
then
it
wouldn't they
comes
just
into the
boot us
project,
off
what'll happen
because
is,
we already did the
if
work?
it comes into the project while MSBA is still around, what happens is they'll come in, and there's, at the end of this job, you're gonna have a sources of funds arrangement, where you have to let them know whether any other funds that came into the project. If
That PFA you just asked about?
That's what that says.
In the fine print in there, it says if the town receives any grants,
You have to tell us about
You
it.
have to let them
and then
know.
we come in and they rewrite the deal.
But if it's all site work, would they still?
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, they want their,
They want their.
they want their 50%.
You know, they want their, all of it,
All of it.
Yeah.
All of it.
probably.
Sure, well, that's the taxpayers'
Probably.
money.
That's right.
We can reduce the bond.
Oh, you'll be able to
But,
pay
oh,
one of the bond
absolutely.
payments.
I mean, you know, the state taxpayers' money.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
How do you benefit?
You don't,
You don't. It's a net.
unfortunately.
Net wash.
So why go after it?
Well, because
Oh,
the state.
Oh, it's definitely worth it.
At the time you started going
Yeah.
after it, you didn't
money.
have
It's
an
gonna
MSBA
help
project.
No, now.
Well, it would
Take
help
money.
the state,
First
right,
started.
for us to
Yeah.
go
Back to
after.
the state.
First started.
No, no,
Because
50%
then they
goes
wouldn't
to
have
the
to pay us that money, right?
There might be work at Pearlie though,
100%.
Right,
that's outside
right.
the scope.
There is
And then
work
we'd
at
also
Pearlie,
get
yeah.
money for Pearlie,
100%.
because they were
Did he
linked
just
to,
say that?
they,
You
I
said
think they,
100%
everything was
back to
sent in
them?
together.
No, they want
When we did
their
it.
share.
They want their share.
They reduce the whole
Right.
cost of the job by the grant, and then they redo the computation on how you're gonna get paid. So the cost of the job comes down, and the allocation, the reduction
So
goes
it
to
would
both,
be-
from both
It was about
sides.
50-ish.
Let's say it's
You do
$200,000.
benefit, even though it comes off the bottom. It's
If you
goodwill
get that from FEMA,
that Georgetown is
At the end
being
of the
fair
day,
It's
and
the
upfront.
responsible thing to do.
your
Right,
reimbursement on that,
and
200%.
it gives Georgetown a good look, as
Right.
far as the
No,
state's
no, no.
concerned.
Well, hold on a second.
He-
Does it, because you just said
It's
something.
really just doing the
If
right
we get
thing.
to, say, $200,000,
Pick a number.
pick a number, $200,000, then they reduce what they pay us, or do they reduce the cost of the project by
Cost of the
200,000?
project.
End of the job.
Right, right.
And the last 5% of their reimbursement, okay, they hold until they do their final audits, okay? Let's say the final reimbursement due to you is $5 million, 95%. let's say it's $600,000. They're gonna take your $600,000, they're gonna say deduct $200,000, they're gonna send you a check for $400,000.
Well, that's what I just said, that it's 100% that they're gonna take.
Okay, but it's not 100% of, it's a strange thing, it's not 100% of, it's not 100% dollars against the cost of that work, it's 100%, it's the amount you receive,
Right.
100% off the top.
Right,
So
right.
They just take it.
It has really very little to do with the cost of the work of.
So we can
Of the
hope this is
project.
tied up for years,
It's
because
still
then when
net
the money
zero.
comes back to the town, MSBA is gone and it goes to the
No,
town.
no, doesn't work like that.
You know what?
There's a TV.
I think
camera
you should, yeah. I think you should talk to Mike about this before we speculate.
That just, I mean, that just came in today.
Yeah, so
there's
they have to
amount,
check it
they have
out.
to check the whole thing out and
It's a
see
nice
what's going
idea,
on.
but I don't think it's gonna work
But I
that
could,
way.
but I would be disingenuous if I didn't tell you
Mhm.
that we have a very, very, very tight schedule. All of these dates we're talking about, all of the dates to get the 90% and all the dates to get the contract out to bid and get a contractor on board by the end of March, that's critical, because we gotta have somebody on board here early April, because they gotta go through the whole shop drawing situation, and when the children are out of school, we gotta hit the job running, or we're just not gonna get done. Anything that's gonna slide this whole thing, doesn't slide us a month or two if there's a delay, it slides us a year.
What about if there are a lot of snow days? Is that gonna affect things?
Snow days?
Because the kids are gonna be going later?
Well, I mean, what's gonna delay, I mean, as soon as the children are out of school, as soon as the
I
school
think
is out, that's when we gotta get
s-
started.
Starting
We
in
had
April, right?
July, well, there's
Some
a
of it's July
portion of it
Portion
starting
of it.
April,
Yeah.
but the bulk of it starting
Yeah.
in July 1.
July, okay, so you'll be all
School
right.
never goes into
Yeah,
July.
no,
though,
it
so-
doesn't.
And, you know, we have, in working with the, Carol in the
Carol.
school department, we got some
No snow
flexibility,
days.
you know, we
Yeah.
can start in the gymnasium, we can start that in April, they're gonna give us that in April. That's not a huge savings, what's, the huge savings is getting the shop drawings going and the submittals going for the summer work. I mean, what we do in the gymnasium, that's great, we can get going on some of that work, but the fact is, you need that couple of months to get everything ready, so that when you get started in the end of June, you're gonna be going full blast on every aspect of that job. And that, again, like I said, there's an accommodation on that first floor, because some of the area in the front, they've allowed us to take till, I think, November, somewhere in that range, because we're decompressing the school. Because the 6th is gonna be out of there, so there will be decompressed, there's
Right.
some areas to use. So, again, even with that, it's still a very, very, very tight schedule.
Yeah.
So I have a question on site work, where
I
the
understand.
state only pays her a certain amount, I think, what, 8% was it?
They
for the
reimburse
project?
8%.
8%, that was
building
my
job,
question
yeah.
too. If
So
this
how
is all
much, how
site
much
work.
is not, how much site work is not being paid by the state?
Not much in this,
What's the total?
not much in this, because there's so
Right,
little
the
site
end
work.
right?
Very
Just
little.
digging that one area.
Get the PFA there?
Yeah, but it doesn't show, the PFA doesn't show.
Doesn't have that attachment?
Yeah, it's got, all it's got is the pro pantry.
So the FEMA grants are all for site
What
work.
they give you on this here,
so
is
they
they
should
give you the
take all of
pro
that.
pantry, there's no,
8%.
Well, we're not gonna worry
No,
about
no, we're not
that.
gonna worry about it here. I just
We're
have
not
one
gonna
other
worry
question.
about
Yeah.
but there's very little they're not gonna pay for, because we have very little site.
So that's good.
The other question I had, and I brought this up once before about the oil tanks, removing the oil tanks. Is there any way that we could amend the, when we put this out to bid, that if there's money available to take out the oil tanks with the contractor doing the outside work? Or is that something the town has to do on their own?
I think Mike already said the
Yeah.
town has to do it.
I think Mike said that the town was gonna end up doing that.
Okay.
Obviously,
Anything
the
else?
budget's in very good shape, because we haven't touched
Right.
on it, we've taken money out of the other category for the engineers and so forth, so nothing else has really changed there, so. But the schedule right now is the big item, is to stay on that schedule, and if we can improve on it by a week or 10 days, boy, I'll tell you, it's gonna pay us dividends.
Okay. All right, Carl, how's the design coming along?
Fine, as Pat said, we're, focusing on getting a 60% submission into MSBA and those various parts, and getting the information to the estimator so we can have well-coordinated estimates here for the latest and most complete scope. We got the information on the roof scan. As we said, we're incorporating that in the documents. That I think is, while the amount of wet insulation went down, the amount of insulation we need to add went up a little bit in order to get the right R value for the overall roof there, which is a good thing in the long run.
Right.
It's gonna save you operating costs to have a better insulated roof. A couple things that we wanted to touch on were.
Does that affect, excuse me,
Sorry.
does that affect any of the curbs or anything that you
It
then have
does.
to rebuild?
Not the curbs, I think we're okay on the, most,
The edges?
It's roof to
yeah, the
wall
edges
flashing
have to
and-
be redone, but we were planning on that. And most of the equipment up there is just on sleepers, little condenser units, so, but the things that aren't curbs can remain on curbs. We don't have to rebuild the curbs, which is
Even though
good.
you're putting in more insulation?
Yeah, it's
right?
not much.
Not much,
It's
okay.
only an inch or an inch and a half in places, so. A couple of additional investigation things that we wanted to bring up. One is for the asbestos abatement in the building, we got a proposal for not only completing the specifications, which will tell the contractor, you know, the procedures and the quantities to carry in the bid, but also then during construction, they do the air quality monitoring while they're doing abatement. And that's not part of our basic service, that's in the reimbursable category. So that one's, to take us through the specifications part is roughly, how do we end this up here?
$2,000 for the design
2,000,
phase.
For the consultant, and then during the, how do we get? Do you have a,
It's 67, it is 67 for this phase, it's just that one.
well, we gotta redo that. Sorry. 8 and 10%? You can redo that one.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Meanwhile, we have, we got approval on Jim Luker and Green Seal to just incorporate the specifications.
Right.
Remember last time that his specific proposal was $3,500. Plus the, previously, we had included his initial review for 1,000. We're putting that together now with having him involved in just construction phase of 3 site visits. He's proposing that's the extent of it. There's no full-time dust
Right.
monitoring here or anything like that. Is another $3,000 that he would bill against over the course of time. And then, so the total, and half of this has already been approved, but we put it all in one PSS now, is $8,300. And again, that's Green Seals.
So will that be coming out of contingency?
That comes out of our, I think there's a category for architects reimbursables, right, Chuck?
In the reimbursable category.
Not coming out of your contingency.
So he's not gonna be there every day?
No, not in high school. That's why we're saying he'd be there just for pre-construction meetings to kick off the job and probably at 2 other points along the way,
I think he
Pete.
has like 3 site visits.
George, if you look at the budget under A&E reimbursables, there's
Yeah.
103,000, it comes out of that. I'm tracking that separate, as you can see,
Different
we've
from,
only
Yeah.
completed up to this point,
Oh, the
That's the
infrared
roof
scan.
scan.
Hasn't that been
This was already,
approved?
this was approved previously, that's
Oh, oh.
what it says in the.
It's on page 3, George.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And halfway down,
Right here.
this is the only one that was approved.
But that was nearly 3,000.
And then the monitoring
not
piece that I was
basically
talking about comes out of the budget line item below that says testing services for 45,000.
Do you know how much the roof will hold, you know, per square foot?
Wait,
Our engineers would,
Hold on.
roughly, but
Which, the middle high school roof?
Yep.
It's gonna vary, there are a few different
What
deck
are you
types
thinking?
up there, there's,
Well, once before we had to shovel off roofs, cause we didn't know what the snow load was, but if
Yeah.
we knew what the snow load, you know, we could, you know, take a measurement of the square footage
Oh,
and
that's
find out if we
great.
have to shovel. And if they're raising the R value, that's gonna,
let's hold a little more snow.
yep.
Yeah.
well, yeah.
We can get you a figure on that. We have
'Cause
drawings.
that would be nice for Mike to know,
Mhm.
you know, for the future, cause nobody knew, it's like, oh, who do we get to come out and find
Yeah,
out what the
people were
snow
nervous
load
there
is?
that
Yeah.
winter, a few winters ago, yeah.
Yeah.
So that PSS was for 8,300. The other one for the infrared scan, you've already approved
Right.
Previously. In the last one, I mentioned about the abatement comes to $9,570.
$9,500.
I had 13.
Right,
The math was off there, Chuck, sorry.
the multiplier was off on that one. We had more than 10% of a markup on that.
So we
So
approved
what's
it.
the real number?
9,570.
So we approving these?
Just 9.
Just 9, we already approved the other.
Number
The
9.
other two were previous.
Right, but what about you increase the green seal? Do we need to approve that, or will that go later?
That comes out of the contingency then.
Okay.
Yeah, the reimbursables.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, this all comes out of reimbursement.
Yeah.
So we're just
the
approving number 9,
9,570.
okay. And this is number 9, and what does this entail? This is the hazmat?
Is the hazmat.
All right,
Both the specifications part of it and the construction phase part of it.
okay. All right, so anyone can make a motion that we approve $9,570 for PSS number 9, the hazmat design and phase and scope?
So moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
And Ellie, the other item on the agenda for us was, we had hired a company to do pipe scoping.
Right.
Use a camera and check out the conditions and extent of, like, rain leaders and other existing pipes before we connect them and try to avoid surprises later on.
We didn't watch every video, but our engineers over at TMP did, and they did look at all of the conditions, and they said there is some mechanical cleaning that they're gonna include in the base scope, but other than that, the pipes are in good condition.
Oh, that's good news, too.
Were they all connected?
You-
I know, were they all connected?
I watched it.
Was that a Friday night?
How much popcorn did you go through?
Anybody wants to borrow a copy, we can make it available, you know, if you pour it on
It's like
Friday or
hamster
Saturday night.
cam.
that's worse than
cake drawing.
We're geeks, we can't
Yeah.
live with this.
But you were concerned that you might find some pipes not quite
Right,
connected.
there's some
so,
joints,
I mean, I
particularly
think
some
that's
joints.
important.
Yeah.
They work.
Everything was connected.
Oh,
yeah.
that's
Yeah,
good.
that's okay. Really good
Now
news.
we don't know
Yeah.
why the tiles are popping outside the gym.
That's not good news then.
I kind of hoped it was a pipe, because then we'd know for sure, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
The mystery
So we're gonna have to dig out some more and find out.
Okay. All right, anything
I
else?
think that's all we had.
Pat, anything else?
I think we're all set.
Okay. Would anyone care to make a motion to adjourn?
I'd love to make a motion to adjourn.
Would someone like to second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Thank
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Have a nice
Seeing you.
Thanksgiving.
You don't have the.
Wait a-